Today, I'm going to be doing my Premier League predictions for the 24-25 season. I can't believe it's a 24-25 season already. Time flies. It only feels like yesterday that we won the Premier League in 2016. In first place, starting at the top, I do have Manchester City. I just think a lot of people are predicting Arsenal to finally have it, to finally get the trophy, to finally be their year. But honestly, I just think Man City still have a little bit too much. You know, we saw rumblings of players like Edison and Rodri, and De Bruyne potentially leaving them this summer. But it hasn't happened. And I think they've kept a large portion of that squad together. They've added to it with Savio, who's an exciting player. But just think of the depth there. Potentially Savio, Jack Grealish on the bench, or Doku, two of the three on the bench next season at Manchester City. The strongest bench, in world football, you could probably say, and definitely the best team in world football. I do think Arsenal next year could win it if they keep their levels up to what they have been the last 2 years, and if they keep it up this year as well. But I just think Man City have a bit too much at the moment. So obviously, as I just mentioned, Arsenal aren't going to win the league, in my opinion, but they will come second. A close second, probably 5-6 points in it again. They'll put the pressure on Man City all season, but Man City just go on them runs at the end of the season. They're unstoppable. And I think Arsenal will just won't be able to catch them in time, basically. So Arsenal in second place, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Trossard looks strong. They've added to the defence Caliafori next to Gabriel, Saliba, White, Raya, who's a bit shaky at times, but still a quality keeper. You're looking at probably the best defence in the league, in my opinion. And then you've obviously got those world-class attacking players as well. If they added a centre forward this summer, potentially maybe I might fancy them for the title, but at this stage, I don't think they'll have enough. In third place, I have Liverpool. Now, this one is honestly, it's a coin toss. They could go one of two ways. Liverpool could quite easily, go back to the Liverpool of old, in my opinion. That might sound a bit crazy, as in the Liverpool of old, just before Klopp, with Rodgers and Hodgson and all of that, struggling really to even get in the top four. I think it could happen, not long term, but this season especially, I think it could happen. I've just got a feeling that it's going to click. And, there are some fans out there that are having a bit of a meltdown because of the lack of signings that they've made. But they're just too fucking good. Salah, Jota's been fiery. Jota's looked really, really good in pre-season. Trent, what role will he take up in the Arne Slot system? You've still got class players all across the pitch. Obviously, Virgil, Van Dijk. Quansah, you've got to look at as a young defender who's coming in and, he's looked all right in pre-season. He could be now the starter for them, for the whole season, really. We've seen Liverpool defences or Liverpool backlines of the past, even as recent as, last year and the year before under Klopp, having so many different partnerships over the course of the season due to injuries. Matip, a lot of injuries. Joe Gomez injured. Robertson injured. So it will be interesting to see, if they can nail down that back four and have a consistent back four for the majority of the season, how good they could be under that. Fourth place for me is going to Newcastle United. I'm going to give it Newcastle. I think they did struggle last season with injuries, which wasn't helped at all by the fixture congestion caused by Champions League football. I just feel like now, in what could be Eddie Howe's final season at Newcastle, should he take the England job on a permanent basis next summer, they will give it a good go. Isak coming in, Hall as well at left back. He'll be a good addition as well. And yeah, I've just got this feeling that they are going to push on, be the Newcastle of 2 years ago rather than the Newcastle of last year. And I think they could qualify for Champions League football, which is why I've got them in fourth. I just think they'll just about pip the likes of Tottenham, etc., to the top four positions. You never know, fifth might be enough depending on who wins competition next season. But fourth place, Newcastle for me. Isak, good job they've kept hold of him, linked to Arsenal. So, yeah, it's massive that they've still got him. Up next for me is Tottenham Hotspur. Bit of a surprise. I was umming and ahhing over this one. I think they'll just about get fifth. I think it'll be close around this part of the table. I think first and second, Man City, Arsenal will be clear. But then obviously from third to probably sixth, it's going to be a big, big battle. Tottenham, some good additions. Archie Gray, I really like the signing. He's versatile, first of all. Last season at Leeds, as a Leicester fan, we saw him. Any Leicester fans watching, we saw him in the Championship for Leeds United. Did well against Leicester both times. Playing right back, playing centre midfield. I feel like Tottenham's midfield options are a bit stacked at the moment. They've got a lot of options there, so I think Archie Gray potentially will be a right back. Although you have Pedro Porro, of course, so it's going to be tight. Maybe he is just going to be rotation, but a lot of Leeds fans, a lot of Tottenham fans who've watched pre-season as well, they highly rate him. Dominic Solanke is going to be a really interesting one. You've got to think last year, they didn't have Harry Kane anymore. They lost that 20-25 goal a season striker. That lost them a lot of goals. Richarlison isn't an awful option, but Harry Kane to Richarlison is probably one of the biggest drop-offs, that you could possibly have in the attacking options. So I think Solanke will be a good fit. And, he got 20 goals or something like that last season for Bournemouth. Although it's the first year he did get numbers like that, I feel like with the Tottenham side, with Heung-min Son, with Kulusevski, potentially James Maddison if he starts, he could get a lot more goals. Next up for me is Manchester United. I don't think they'll have a barnstormer of a season. Obviously, that's why I've got them down in sixth. However, they'll definitely improve on the eighth under Erik ten Hag. I think he would have been sacked last season if they hadn't won the FA Cup. However, I just feel like the additions they've made, I know Lenny Yoro and players like that have picked up a couple injuries. They're now adding De Ligt, they're adding Mazraoui. They're adding good players, they're adding depth. And I think that will be enough to see them over the line into sixth place. It's not what Man United fans would like. They'd much rather their team be fighting for top four. I think they will be fighting for top four at parts of the season. But the additions they've made, Joshua Zirkzee as well as a quality signing. And it's a make or break season for Erik ten Hag. If he does well, he might see, a new contract. He might stay longer. But you've got to think maybe even sixth, seventh, eighth. If he finishes there, it will be curtains for him. Next up for me is Chelsea in seventh place. I wanted to put them lower just because they stole my manager and they stole my best midfielder. Yeah, they did. They did steal my best midfielder and they did steal my best manager. Well, not my best manager. They stole my manager. But I just feel like it will click later on in the season. He has to build a project at Chelsea. There's no point in sacking him in October, November, December, because he needs to get the players clicking. He needs to get the system instilled in them. We saw it at Leicester. And he'll have challenges like he did at Leicester. He'll struggle to break certain teams down. Of course he will. Maybe even at Leicester he might struggle to break down, although I think he could easily put 3 or 4 goals past us. But I think it will click eventually. I think that will see them into seventh place. I'm not sure how much of a role Kiernan Dewsbury Hall will play this season. He does lack a bit of quality compared to the likes of Enzo Fernandez and players like that, and then Nkunku. But, I think, again, Chelsea have continued to spend. I think eventually these players that have been in this squad for quite a while now, the young players, a couple of years, it will all click for them. And seventh place, I don't think is an awful season for Chelsea this year with a new manager and a new rebuild, if you like. If you can call it a rebuild under those frauds that are Clear Lake. Sorry to any Aston Villa fans, but I am giving you 8th place here. I know you guys will probably be wanting, well, you'll be wanting 4th. You'll probably be aiming for 5th or 6th. I think you'll finish 8th. I think, again, like Newcastle did this year, you'll have a bit of a drop-off with the Champions League football. I don't think you'll make it far in the Champions League football, but obviously you'll have these new, because of the new structure of the Champions League, you'll be having games up until January, I believe. It's a lot of fixture congestion. It's a lot of it's demanding on the players. And if you pick up a few injuries, I do worry for you. So 8th place, I think, wouldn't be an awful season for you. That's where I think you'll finish. Ollie Watkins still on the score sheet plenty of times, but 8th place for you. 9th place for me is Crystal Palace. What an end to the season for them. Glasner looks great. Obviously, they've lost Elise, which is a shame, but Eze, he's just a baller. He's insane. Mateta firing on all fronts. I think he even scored in the Olympics. You just look like a really well-gelled team. Adam Wharton, again, generational player, some are calling it. Don't think he's quite at that level, but I think he definitely has the ability to go on and the potential to go on to be world class and playing for England regularly. I think 9th place will be a good finish for you lads. And it's an exciting season for you. Maybe next year, the year, 25, 26, you can build on that and maybe get into Europe. But 9th place for Crystal Palace, in my opinion. 10th place is West Ham United. What a transfer window they've had, by the way. Fulkrug, Somerville. These are massive additions to the West Ham squad. Absolutely. Somerville, I saw him firsthand last season against Leicester a couple of times. I watched many Leeds games last season, obviously with the championship fight. And he is just quality. He is absolutely sensational. Surprised he didn't go to a bigger club like Liverpool, maybe linking up with his former manager Arne Slot, Dutch as well. But 10th place for me, I think there's so much competition now in the top 10. It's going to be impossible. I'm thinking back to when Leicester were in the top 10. I don't think there was even as much competition then as there is now. The likes of Crystal Palace, Villa, Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea, it's going to be scrappy. It's going to be, every win matters. And I think 10th place isn't the worst of seasons for you guys. Lopetegui, still doubts for me as to whether he's good enough at this level or good enough to take a team into Europe or a team like West Ham. But the likes of Fulkrug, like I mentioned, and Somerville, massive, massive signings. Wan-Bissaka, I'm hearing right now, might be coming in. You've got a good chance of finishing higher than that. But I think 10th place just with the competition around. Next up in 11th place, I have Brighton and Hove Albion. I've seen some people predict a very low finish for Brighton. As in, I've seen one person say relegation fight. Not entirely sure on that. Well, clearly I'm not because I've put them 11th. Not the levels that we saw Brighton last year or the year, the last couple of years where they were fighting for Europe. However, I just feel like it's going to catch up with them a little bit. All this profit, this profiteering, if you want to call it that, selling players for big money. Trust me, it catches up with you. Caught up with Leicester. Yes, you've invested money into the squad. Yes, you've got quality like João Pedro. Of course, João Pedro and others. You've loaned out Buonanotte to Leicester, which I'm a bit surprised at because I thought he was a good squad player for you lads last season, and I'm surprised that you've let him go. He has signed a 4-year deal, I know. He is coming back. But I just feel like it's going to catch up with them, not investing as heavily as maybe some Brighton fans would like. A new, unproven manager, very young. Again, like Slot, it could go one or two ways. I just feel like it is going to be a bottom half table finish for Brighton this season. A little bit disappointing. Hopefully they can build on it. Hopefully they have a good season. I do like Brighton, but I just feel like they are going to make up the top of the bottom half of the table. Next is 12th place, and that is Fulham. What to make of Fulham? Paulini's gone, but you have brought in Emil Smith-Rowe, and I think that's a good signing. It's the type of signing that I would have absolutely loved at Leicester. He is too good for Leicester at this point, I think, where Leicester are at the moment. A little bit frustrating because when we were quite good, I think we were linked with Smith-Rowe and we couldn't get him, and now he's gone to Fulham. I've always found Fulham a bit of an meh team. If any Fulham fans are watching, I'm sorry, but I don't know. I just never got it. I've never got it. I just don't think I think you've overperformed big time. And I know that's rich coming from a Leicester fan. I'm just surprised that since you came back up last time, you've not, you've done as well as you have. And it's credit to you. It's credit to you. Credit to some of the recruitment. I think Bobby De Cordova-Reid will be a miss for Fulham, not because he's a great world-class player and he'll start for you every week, but he's a good squad player, and those types of players you do like to have around. I believe he was out of contract and he decided to leave for more minutes, so it's not like you just got rid of him. I'm sure you would have preferred to keep him around a bit longer, but for me, 12th place Fulham, not going to pull up any trees, not going to really be in a relegation fight, just standard mid-table finish for you guys. And I don't know, let me know if you'd be happy with that. Coming in at number 13th is Bournemouth. I'm going to give it Bournemouth. I think last season they made some good strides. They look good. Iriola looks good as well. You've lost Solanke, which is a shame. Otherwise, I definitely would have had you higher. But you've still got quality. You've got Sinistera, who was always highly rated by Leeds fans. He looked really good, and I know he's had his injury problems, as has Tyler Adams, for example. But you've got some good players in the team. I just trust Iriola. I think he did that good of a job. I think he'll have enough to just have you safe, not to worry about the bottom three. And look, Bournemouth fans, if I said to you 3 years ago that, or even 2 years ago, that this is where you'd be, you wouldn't have any worries of relegation fights or anything like that. I think you would have taken it. I think it'll be a good season for you. Hopefully, again, like I said, you can bring in a striker maybe in the latter stages of the window. If not, maybe next summer or in January, you can do that. And hopefully you can build on. But I've got you in 13th. I don't think you're going to finish any higher than that, unfortunately. Next up, I have Everton. Now, this is entirely dependent on whether another points deduction comes Everton's way. Sean Dyche, I think, had you solid. He had you proper solid. Let's be honest. Solid at the back last season. I think Sean Dyche will just build on it, adding a couple of additions here and there where he can. I just think you'll have enough to stay up, and I think you'll just by come the end of the season, I think you'll just be clear, not really having to worry about relegation in the last couple of games. But if a points deduction does come your way, another points deduction, depending on how big that is, of course, you could be drawn into it, and that could be worrisome. But at this stage, I'm confident Everton will stay up under Sean Dyche. I love him. I love Sean Dyche. Would have liked him at Leicester, and yeah, hopefully for you guys, you do stay up. 15th place is Brentford. Yes, again, you've got Ivan Toney. I understand it. What a goal scorer. What a player he is. But again, I just can't see you tearing up any trees. But apart from that, I look at your business and I think, there ain't enough there for me to be pushing for the top half or even kind of 10th, 11th. I think you will be drawn into a relegation battle again at some points of the season. Because of how poor I can see the bottom three being this season, I think that you will be safe in the end, but not ripping up any trees. I do think you'll struggle at times, and I think you might struggle with goals. If Ivan Toney gets injured, I think you're going to struggle. So yes, I do have you in 15th place. I do apologise to any Bournemouth fans, but that's just how I feel. And now we get into the proper scrappy relegation battle. In 16th place, the team that I have being the most comfortable out of the remaining teams, it is Wolverhampton Wanderers. Gary O'Neill, I'm not sold on him. You've lost Pedro Neto. I don't really know too much about the business you've brought in. I don't think you're going to be a very good team this year. I think you're going to struggle for wins. I think you're going to struggle for goals. But I think you'll have enough. Obviously, I've got you in 16th. Wolves, I've seen a lot of people say that they might be in a relegation battle. I've seen a couple of people say they might go down. And I think, again, like I've said with a couple of teams already, because of how poor I see the bottom teams being, you'll be safe in the end. But it's going to be scrappy. It's going to be tough to get wins. It's going to be hard. Hopefully, Leicester get 6 points over you to help our chances. But I do have Wolverhampton Wanderers in 16th place, which leads me on to 17th place, which is the tricky trees, Nottingham Forest. Yes, I know that means that I've got other teams in the bottom three. Yeah, we'll get to it in a minute. Nottingham Forest to survive. Why? I just feel like you have the experience of surviving in a relegation battle. I think that's it. That's all I'm putting it down to. As well as that, you've got some good players. Of course you have. You've got Chris Wood, who comes up with big goals. Morgan Gibbs-White, quality player. Absolutely amazing player for this lower half of the table. But there will be a relegation fight. I've got you obviously in 17th. So that means, only a couple points safe, maybe, if that, maybe a goal difference. Who knows? I've seen Forest fans get a little bit excited and encouraged and think that you are going to push on this season and avoid a relegation battle. But the teams above you and around you on the upper part, not below you, but above you and around you, they're just too good compared to you, I believe. And, I think 17th place, would you take it right now? If someone said to you, here you go, Forest fan, 17th place, do you take that? I think you would. I think you would take it. So don't come at me. I think it's fair. 17th place. 18th place, Ipswich Town. Yeah, I know I haven't said Leicester yet. 18th place, Ipswich Town. I think it's going to be a close one between Ipswich and Forest to go down. I'm gonna say it's Ipswich, unfortunately. I think you have made some good signings, of course. You definitely have. And Amari Hutchinson, for starters, getting in permanently is a brilliant deal. He was really good in the Championship last season. I think you will have, you'll have the hype of this newly promoted team, back-to-back promotions. Can you stay up? I don't think you can, but the hype will see you through some games. Portman Road will be a fortress in terms of the noise and the backing of the fans. That will carry you through some games. I just don't think it will carry you through enough, especially on the away days against the likes of teams around you, the likes of Forest, Wolves, Brentford, Everton. I think they will have the edge over Ipswich. So Ipswich in 18th place to get relegated, and that moves me on to 19th place, where I do have Leicester City. Now, again, this is dependent on points deductions. Of course it is. If Leicester City have a very, very small points deduction and we have a very, very good start to the season, Leicester City could finish outside of the relegation zone. But I don't see it starting well, and I don't see it ending well, and I don't see us having a middle part that's well either. I think we will be truly awful all the way through the season. Now, we have links to Wilfried Zaha. We have links to Hlozek from Bayer Leverkusen. They are big, big attacking signings who will bring goals and assists and contributions. But a points deduction that is looking likely in the realms between 6 and 10 or 6 and 12 points, it's a big knockback for a team. I think we'd be struggling to stay up regardless of the points deduction. And with that thrown into the mix, it spells trouble. I think the fact that we're going to have a points deduction and we've been so bad in pre-season is a bit of an insult to Southampton, because I've got Southampton 20th, rock bottom. Southampton, for me, they're just uninspiring. Russell Martin, I don't think he's a very good manager. I really don't. I think that they should have finished a lot higher than they did last season. I know championship football, last season especially, is a lottery. Leeds, Leicester, Ipswich, all playing so well for large portions of the season. But there was no doubt in my mind last season, Southampton were the weakest out of the teams that came down between Leicester, Leeds and Southampton. And I just feel like you haven't improved the squad enough to challenge for a safety spot. I think you will be a point, 2 points, 3 points, maybe even more below Leicester. I think we'll probably do the double over you as well. I think many teams will do the double against you. I am sorry. It's no hard feelings. I've got nothing against you. I just don't think you're a very good side, and I don't think Russell Martin's a very good manager. So that rounds up my Premier League table prediction video for this season. I can't wait to come back to it in 9-10 months' time and see how poorly I got it or how wrong it was. Hopefully it is wrong in terms of Leicester City. Hopefully we do finish higher than 19th. Had to remind myself that I can't believe I actually put as 19th. Hopefully we finish higher than that. Maybe Arsenal win the league. Who knows? But let me know in the comments below who or where you think your team is going to finish this year. And if you are a Leicester fan, tell me, am I wrong? Am I overreacting? Are we really that bad? Because I think we are. But if you're a Leicester fan and you think we're going to survive, put in the comments, let me know and tell me why. Why? Because I can't see any reasons, really. I really can't. But thanks for watching. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. Obviously, it's a brand new channel. Any likes, any subscribes, much appreciated. Give it a share as well if you can. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.